Hi there, I'm Trevor McCord, team lead of the sales engineering team here at SolarWinds Enable, and today I'd like to introduce you to N-Central 10 featuring MSP Connect. What we're going to do is go through a product overview, give you the features and benefits, and to start off, I'd like to show you an architecture overview, give you an understanding of how things work on the back end. So starting off, basically you have the N-Central server itself. So there are two options with this, one us hosting it, the other being you hosting it. If you want to host it yourself, basically, you're going to download an ISO image. You can spin that up either onto its own physical box or give it a virtual environment, and both Hyper-V and ESX are supported. Us hosting it, obviously there's no setup involved. So really easy. There is also an option for an Azure installation if you do prefer to go down that route. All right, so once the server's up and running, the next step is to deploy to the client site. We do that through what we call agent and probe technology. So typically what I'm going to do is start with a probe. And that's a piece of Windows software. Most commonly people install that on the domain controller, but you can put it on any Windows device. The point being that you're not going to deploy a dedicated device for this, so existing infrastructure. Now what that probe is going to allow you to do is run discovery jobs. It's going to be able to go out across the network, detect, identify, classify, and set up best practice monitoring for all the devices that it detects. And through that process, it's able to deploy agents to all the workstations and servers on the network. So the nice thing about that is the agents are then going to be able to communicate back to N-Central independently. They do all of the local monitoring and management for the devices they're on. So good to know that you're going to have that capability without the probe. Now the probe is also going to be doing active monitoring. So for your devices that cannot have agents, so that being things like printers, network equipment, NAS devices, potentially even VoIP phones, things like that, the probe is going to be able to do that type of monitoring. So things like connectivity checks, TCP port checks, SNMP details, syslogs and traps. So good to know you're going to have that level of monitoring across every type of device on the network. Now from there, very easy, concise, consolidated. All you're going to do is replicate those steps across the alternate client sites. Now, once you have your clients deployed, obviously you want to implement the management functions. So some of the stuff integrated into N-Central are things like AV. We've partnered with Bitdefender, so we're using their enterprise cloud security. We have partnerships with ArcServe and StorageCraft on the backup side. We also have patch management solution leveraging our agent and probe without WSUS. So the probe device is actually able to act as a patch cache repository to be able to download, cache, and distribute locally all of the updates to save on bandwidth. With all the monitoring that's happening within N-Central, obviously you need to know what's happening in that environment. So we're able to get notifications sent out, and there is an escalation path possible. So you can have all your notifications go to your level 1 tech, for example, and if necessary, if someone doesn't respond in a timely fashion, have those go out to your level 2, level 3 techs as necessary. Beyond that, we do also have a mobile app for technicians on the go. So with that, they're actually able to see all of their current active issues, acknowledge their alerts, and even respond to those, whether it's deploying a script to remediate, that type of thing. Now we do also have really great ticketing integration. So the product we have called MSP Manager, we're actually able to kick off those notifications to a ticketing solution for tracking purposes and have those route to the appropriate queue based on who should be responding and whatever priority level should be set. Now we do also have integration with other PSA tools such as Autotask and ConnectWise. So with all the monitoring and management set up, you want to be able to show the value of your service offering with nice cumulative deliverables that you can show the business owner, whoever's paying for your service, the value of what it is that you're doing behind the scenes. So being able to have nice, concise reports that show everything that you've done over the previous month or quarter and giving you the capability to schedule those out to meet those deadlines. All right, and now what I'd like to do is actually take you through a live presentation of N-Central 10. So let's jump in. So what we're brought to here is the main login screen of N-Central. So what I want to point out here is that it is completely customizable and brandable. So you put your own company name, your own company logo, you can change the background color scheme if you wish, get rid of these buttons if you want, all to better reflect your company image. So the benefit of that is obviously you're signing in, technicians signing in, looks like you're signing into your own platform, but there are also things that you can do with limited account access rights. So an example of that might be where the client, the business owner, wants to be able to sign in to view dashboards to see how their environment's performing. You can actually grant them access where they would log in and only see the dashboards for their own environment and nothing else. Or something like end users that maybe work from home occasionally, where you want to be able to grant them access to be able to remote control their own device. So you can grant them privileges to be able to log in, only see their own device, and the only ability they have is to click and remote control. Or perhaps an on-site tech where you're perhaps acting as a level 2, level 3 support, granting them access to be able to perform management functions for their own environment and their own environment only. But again, customized and branded would look like they're signing into your platform. So let's go ahead and log in here. And just to take a quick look at the structure here. So it is a hierarchy structure. So right now at my top level, this is my global view. So from here, I'm going to be able to do global changes. Underneath, I have my customers listed. So if I were to drill into one of the customers, I'm only going to see devices from that customer, and changes they make are only going to affect that customer. Beyond that, I do have a parent-child relationship here. So most commonly, people would use this for customers and locations, but there are other reasons. Perhaps a large environment, you might put departments, or you could do test groups for things like patching and whatnot. But just understanding there is a parent-child relationship there. Now, very intuitive layout, right? So I've got all my dashboards here, the actions that I can perform, reporting section, even a help section that includes training videos. So really easy to find whatever it is that you're looking for. Now, as a tech, I have this configured to automatically pull up my active issues view. So I'm jumping in here and right away being brought to the screen that shows me all my devices that are in something other than a normal status. So I can see what customer they're at, potentially what site. I can remote control from here. I have quick access to a tools menu to perform remediation functions. I can see the device name, the device class. I can see what service is in what status and what the transition time was, and be able to hover over, get a better idea of why it's in that status. I can also see things like whether or not a notification has gone out and whether or not it's been acknowledged by one of the technicians. So just a quick glance thing to be able to see, is someone actively looking into this? I can also see things like whether or not I have a professional license, my antivirus deployed, backup, patch management enabled, or associated maintenance windows. All right, and with our ticketing integration, you're going to actually be able to go directly into the ticket if one's been generated for that type of alert. So being able to click, get in there very seamlessly, and right away have everything related to that ticket, the device details, previous notes. I can get in here, add time entries, potentially expenses if there's parts for that ticket, add responses to respond to an end user, and potentially even start a timer if I wanted to record how long I've been working on this. So just a note, we would have the same type of feature available with Autotask and ConnectWise. Now, the nice thing about this active issues view is that I can customize it and tailor it to my own needs. So right now, looking at a total of 209 active issues, I'm able to actually get in and set this to be somewhat of a knock view, or if there's particular things that I would do, maybe I'm the networking guy or the hardware or software guy, I can go through and check or uncheck things that are relevant to my workday. Now, further to that, maybe it's Patch Tuesday, I can jump in and just see all my devices that are having patch issues currently. So again, very easily be able to pull those up and again, get a better idea of why they're in that status. This one, for example, just needs a reboot. This one as well. This one's missing some critical and security updates. Now, what I'm also able to do is then perform management functions. So being able to select those devices and perhaps the ones that need patches, be able to jump in here and tell it to do a patch on demand. So being able to click that right away, maybe install immediately or schedule that out for 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. Also, these ones that needed a reboot, being able to schedule that out through a script or automation policy. Maybe today I got a shipment of hard drives and I need to extend volumes or put new disks into some servers. I'm able to easily find all my devices that are running out of hard drive space. So again, being able to select individual, multiple, potentially select all if I want to do the same task, I can get in there and again, run an automation policy to delete temp files, run a disk cleanup, that type of thing, try and resolve the issue. Now, beyond that, what I want to be able to do is tell it to scan now to update the monitor. I don't want to wait for the next polling interval because if another technician's looking at this, I don't want them to be running the same task that I just did. So being able to tell it to scan now, update the monitoring right away so that it clears off. Now, something else, so maybe this disk Z is a database drive. So what I'm able to do is actually select it and tell it to adjust the thresholds. So if nothing's ever going to change on that drive and it's always going to be, 95, 98% full, I'm able to get in and tell it, for that one drive and that one drive only, that's okay. So again, being able to very easily and seamlessly manage the issues from the same screen that you're seeing the issues on. So now what I'd like to do is go to the All Devices view, which is literally that. So again, being at the top level, I'm going to be seeing all devices across all customer sites. Now what I'm able to do is, again, if I needed to, I could drill into a particular customer if I only want to see their devices. I can filter for a particular subset of devices if I need to. So maybe there's a task I need to run on my network equipment, maybe for my Cisco devices here, maybe send the running config to an FTP server, do something like that. I'm also able to create my own filters. So whether that's for a particular purpose, maybe there's a task I need to do for a group of devices, and I can do that based on any number of asset information, whether that's hardware details, software details, operating system info. So really nice being able to do that. Further to that, so let's say I have a service call, someone's calling in, and I need to manage their device. I can easily search by the device name or the logged in user. So in this case, maybe I'm getting a call from Anthony. I can search for his device, again, be able to easily run a task, do remote control, be able to manage the device effectively. So from here, let's jump into a device. So I've got a Dell server here, and when I click into it, I'm going to be brought to all of the relevant information about it. So I can see CPU disk memory details, I have utilization metrics, any current active issues, as well as all the relevant system information. So I can see PowerEdge 2950, the service tag running Server 2008 R2, 64-bit. I have a partial key here, as well as the current logged in user. Now as time goes on, I'll have all my utilization metrics that pop up and be able to see what's actually using those resources. So really good information to have. I can see current open ports, all my running processes, a quick patch summary here, all my Windows services that are running, and with the integrated AV, also a little AV widget here to show me what's happening on that side of things. Now looking at monitoring, going through this I can see all the current monitoring that's happening on the device. So things like our agent checking in to make sure it's up and running. AV Defender is the Bitdefender product, so really solid monitoring there. And we do also have monitoring available for many other third-party AV products. Things like CPU, disk, memory utilization, disk I/O. Being a physical box, I'm also monitoring the hardware, so there's all my fan statuses. I have IIS installed. There's my logical drives, memory utilization, as well as physical memory status. My patch status, there's my physical drives, things like the power supplies. I've got Shadow Protect installed on here, so I'm monitoring that as well. Also things like whether or not it needs a reboot, my RAID status, temperature sensors, the warranty details, uptime, Windows event logs, as well as application and services logs. So a lot of really good information here that's pulled automatically. So all of this, based on the discovery, is detected, and we apply what fits. So if this was an Active Directory, a SQL, Exchange box, we'd have applicable monitoring for that type of thing. So again, just understanding that it does happen automatically. Now looking at all the asset information, so again, things that we're going to do automatically is pull things like the warranty information. And we do have a direct link here that can actually jump right to the vendor's website, so that if you did need to go in and extend that warranty, very seamless method of doing that. All the relevant hardware details, including serial numbers. So nice to know that, again, for reporting purposes, you're going to have all of that information, including part numbers. Specifics on the OS, all of the applications, including the version numbers that are installed. So all of these are going to be available at your fingertips. And again, we do pull the warranty details automatically, and that's available for monitoring purposes, as we saw. So you can actually get notifications on that. Potentially through the ticketing solution, maybe send that to a different queue that maybe gets picked up by the sales team as opposed to the technical team. It's also going to be available for reporting purposes. So you can print those reports off, use them as talking points, and maybe have those discussions with the client of, that's a critical server and we need to make sure that we can get replacement parts in a timely fashion. All right, and the next thing I'd like to show you is this tools menu. So what you're going to be able to do here is a lot of management remediation functions all behind the scenes without affecting the end user. So the key to that is that your service delivery becomes where you're not affecting the end user session. So the cost of your service delivery isn't twofold, where they have to pay for your service as well as the cost of the downtime of the end user. So being able to get in there and do all these functions, such as starting, stopping services and processes, access to the registry, your application, startup items, printers, command prompt, file system, even task execution, which is going to be things like scripting and automation policies. So some common issues that you would run into are things like printer issues. So being able to get in here, and maybe what I want to do is clear the print spooler. So being able to select that, click run, be able to execute that, and maybe from there what I want to do is restart the print spooler. So I can scroll through the list, I can also do a quick search to find that. Be able to select it, I can stop it, restart it, set the startup type if I need to, the log on as, even turn on monitoring within N-Central. So really great if I need to get alerts on that, probably not for an end user device, but if this is a print server, good to know I have that capability. Now you could go a step further, so that if this is a fixed fee managed client, being able to tell the system to self-heal that, and if that service crashes, restart it for me automatically. So next, maybe the printer isn't working at all. So what I can do is actually jump in here and maybe add a new printer, right? So set up, map the new network printer, get over my printers, and set that up for the user. So select my user, I can perhaps delete the old one, set the new one as default, even print a test page. So the nice thing about that is that you're taking the end user completely out of that equation. From there, other common issues, things like performance issues. So what I'm able to do is actually view the startup items. So I can get in, again, enable or disable those. So if there is something that's affecting their productivity, be able to see what is starting up with the machine. So nice being able to do that all behind the scenes, where the end user isn't going to watch me go through MS-config, and then perhaps I need to worry about them going in there afterwards. So a really scary thought. So I can also view the applications. So, again, with performance issues, I can view what was installed, sort by the installed date to see if something is new. By name, maybe see, did someone install Bonsai Buddy again for the 10th time? And I can also do request uninstalls if they can be uninstalled silently, and even install patches. And we do have about 30 different third-party apps, so that's going to be your things like Adobe, Flash, Java, Chrome, Firefox, those types of applications. So from there, again, performance issues, I can go to my processes, view my CPU, memory utilization rates, and be able to get in and, again, start new ones. I can end them, set the priority, even turn on monitoring within N-Central if applicable. Other things like malware, be able to get in there, kill those processes, and if they've made changes to the device, access the registry, and be able to perhaps unlock something that's been locked out. So I can add keys, I can modify keys, I can even delete keys. You do have an active session command prompt as well, so I can get in here and execute tasks. So again, in real time, so really nice being able to do that, as well as direct access to the file system. So I'm going to be able to send the device files from my own machine. I can retrieve files from the device, I can copy and paste to move around, and even delete files. For further troubleshooting, if I need to, I can do things like patch on demand, I can shut down or reboot the device. I can even get to safe mode with networking. So our agent does run in safe mode, so you're going to be able to do troubleshooting there as well if necessary. Now the great thing about all of these management functions is that you're going to have it tracked in the audit trail. So from a business owner perspective, nice knowing that everything that's done against the device is going to be tracked. But from a technician perspective, with our ticketing integration, I can say, okay, these 3 things are what I did to resolve that issue. I can create or update ticket and maybe go in and append my one-liner of previous steps resolved issue, case closed. So seamlessly making that happen. 5 o'clock rolls around, the last thing I want to do is spend 10 minutes updating notes on what I just worked on. So being able to do that very, very easily. Now you do have the ability to have dashboards. So again, a quick glance view for a purpose. So if I'm the antivirus guy, being able to get in here and again, identify where I'm having issues across that service function. Other things like backup, patch management, same idea. Be able to see what's happening across that specific subset of devices. And through N-Central, you're going to have multiple methods of connecting to devices on the network. So whether that's through SSH or Telnet, web console access, RDP sessions. But what I'd like to showcase now is our MSP Connect tool. With a single click, we're going to be able to access the device. And if the end user is already working, I'm just going to join their session. So being able to seamlessly get in there and manage the device as necessary. Now, some different tools that you're going to have available, system information. I have the system shell, so I can get in there and execute commands with command prompt. Drag and drop file transfer between the devices. And system info, which is even going to include the ability to start and stop services and processes. Now, other functions, I can change my color depth. I can access individual terminal service sessions, which is really nice. You can go full screen. Other things like being able to lock the remote OS, Control-Alt-Delete, clipboards back and forth, even record the session. So really nice feature set there. And what I'd like to look at next is some of the management features that you're going to get through the N-Central platform. So first thing let's start with is patch management. So what we've implemented is a patch setup wizard. So taking the complexity out of the setup of this. So going through each and every setting step by step. So I can use an existing profile if I have some made up. I can even create a new one. So give it a name here. So call it standard. What I can do then is set the different options. So do I want my end users to get pop-up messages to let them know that patching is going to happen? Do I want the end devices to be able to bypass the probe device? So again, the probe can act as that patch repository. So do I want them to be able to go outside of that? So perhaps for laptops that maybe go off-site, that might be a good idea. So specify, if they can't reach the probe within a set amount of time, they can go directly to the update server. Do I want the device to be able to install patches on a next boot up? So again, depending on the environment, giving you that capability. As well as Windows Update access, so potentially giving you the ability to restrict access to an end user so that they're not going through Control Panel and doing updates on their own. As well, even the ability to wake the device up if it's sleeping or hibernating. Next, you can actually set up all of your different maintenance windows. So things like patch detection. When do I want that detection to happen? Things like the pre-download. When do I want to download? So maybe I want this to happen outside of business hours. But maybe it needs to if the devices are going to be turned off at night. As well, different things like the installation time, right? So when do I want to install? Perhaps Saturday, maybe I want to do this Thursday evenings. Next, when do you want to reboot? So a lot of patches are going to require restarting the device in order to finish the installation process. So being able to do that, and different things like allowing the end user to delay that. I can put custom messaging up. I can put the device into downtime to suppress notifications. So I don't want to get alerted that a server is down when I'm the one that rebooted it. And then schedule it to meet my service agreement. So again, maybe I wanted to do that on Thursday. Finally, you can configure rules. So this is going to be your ability to tie groups of devices to it. So if this is for all of my workstations, let's say, I can target all my devices and then apply it to all of the clients that are paying for that service. So with a few checks, very easily configured all of my patch setup. Next, let's look at antivirus. So again, I mentioned earlier that our antivirus, we have an integration with Bitdefender. So the key to this, again, is profile. So think of the profile as the settings that you're going to apply to the devices. So we have some default profiles out of the box, but I can very easily create my own. So let's go and see what some of the settings are. So I have anti-malware, where I can get in and set recommended levels, aggressive, permissive, even custom, which is going to allow you to pick each and every aspect of this. You can pick and choose which features you want enabled, what you want to do when certain actions are performed, right down to how long do I want to keep things in the quarantine, and do I want to scan things like USB drives, or do I want to skip them if they're over a certain size. You have things like behavioral analysis, so a really key feature here, where this is able to block things like your crypto wall, crypto locker, simply by turning these on, so your intrusion and active virus control. Other things like content control. So if you want to actually restrict internet access, for example, I can select that, turn it on, set up the internet control to limit when users would actually be able to gain access to the internet, or just simply block categories, or even explicit whitelisting and blacklisting for specific sites. There's also things like anti-phishing, firewall modules, even individual settings right down to whether or not the end user gets a system tray icon, and how often it's going to update. Again, everything being controlled right through the N-Central platform. So that single pane of glass, you can configure update servers so that you have a central point downloading the updates for it and distributing them locally, and managing the quarantine right from here as well. The next thing I want to point out is our integrated backup. So again, very seamless. I can create a profile with all the settings that I want to push to those devices. So your various options of what do I want to back up and where do I want to back up to. You can set credentials for it to be able to gain access to the network share perhaps, but I could back this up to a separate internal drive, an external drive, or a UNC path of a share. You're able to have up to 1,344 recovery points and implement compression as well as encryption settings. From there, I'm going to set my schedule. So this gives you the ability to time it, how often you want to do full backups, incremental backups, and verifications. You can even do advanced settings here, which is going to allow for log truncation for your SQL and Exchange databases, allowing for granular restore capabilities there. You also have individual file copy settings. So this is your ability to send individual files or folders to a separate location. So being able to do your local backup, which is going to allow for a bare metal restore, even to dissimilar hardware if necessary. But this is going to allow you to send perhaps the documents folder to a separate location, including cloud locations like Amazon, Windows Azure, or Eucalyptus. The other capability you have here is copy recovery points. So this might be useful if, let's say, you're backing up to a USB drive and maybe to a secondary drive that you take off site once a week. So giving that ability to send to both locations a full recovery point. And now what I'd like to talk about is our automation manager. So what we've actually done is implemented a codeless scripting engine where you can get in and create scripts without needing to have a scripting background. So this is actually based on PowerShell, but you don't need to know anything about PowerShell to make it work. There are training videos, but what I want to do is just show you how simple it is to use. So let's actually jump in and create a new policy. And let's say I want to build out an onboarding program. So let's call this onboarding. And basically how this works is in the middle is where I'm going to create the policy. And on the right-hand side are objects that are available to me. And these are all the categories, and within each category is various different objects. And think of these objects as mini scripts that you get to enter the parameters around. So looking at this, I've got Active Directory management. I've got all my different conditional and control flow statements, event log, Exchange, file management. There's a whole pile of Hyper-V and Office 365 management capabilities. Different things like access to the registry, restore points, SharePoint and SQL, SSH commands, a whole pile of system functions, even Wake on LAN. So really powerful tool, and what I want to do is just point out how easy it is to use. So for example, I have my onboarding program that I want to do. So maybe the first thing I do when I'm bringing in a new device, for example, is create a new local user. So I can just simply drag and drop that and enter the details about that user, so the username and password. Now, maybe I need to go a step further, and that user should be an administrator. Maybe this is my service account that I use. So being able to drag that over, so add user to local group, so the same user to the administrators group. So really simple. So these could be as simple as a single object, or I can grow this out to be multiple objects. So these can be as complex as you need them to be. So what else would I do? Maybe for this client, I want to disable USB devices due to virus outbreaks. Maybe I need to map their network printer. Maybe I want to map their network drive for their network share. Maybe there's some applications that I want to download, so things like Adobe Reader, Flash, Java, things like that. So maybe download it, and then I need to run it. So again, being able to very seamlessly and easily get in here and create that onboarding program. With one click, I'm able to actually upload that back to N-Central and then make use of it. So from my all devices view, my active issues view, I'm able to get in there, select, again, individual, perhaps multiple devices that I want to run it against, add that task. So things I can do file transfers, push software, automation policies, scripts, run security scans, or do patch on demand. So let's take a look at the automation policy options. So again, there is a repository out of the box, so you're not recreating the wheel here, but maybe what I want to do is, run maintenance task. So set it up, there's the devices I targeted. I can add more on the fly if I need to. I can then schedule it, so I can run it now immediately, but maybe that's not appropriate, so I can run it in the future. So maybe on the weekend is more appropriate at whatever specified time. But maybe this is my monthly recurring maintenance. So what I can do is schedule this to run on a monthly basis at maybe midnight is good on the last Saturday of each month. And then what I can do is set up a notification so that in case something goes wrong, maybe that goes to my support desk with the ticketing integration, that could actually be a ticket created with an appropriate amount of billable time. So again, seamlessly getting in there, automating that process. And for other things that should be automated, what we're able to do is actually create rules so that as new devices get added to the system, have these tasks added automatically. So those are just some of the features available in N-Central. And thank you for spending the time with me today and going through N-Central 10 with MSP Connect. If you'd like to sign up for a trial, head over to enable.com. Thank you.